For the year 2020, I'm making a video review for every new movie I watch, whether in theaters or at home, and on October 11th, I watched Horns. Welcome to my year in movies. This is Talking to Myself. Ig Parrish can't catch a break. First, his girlfriend's found brutally raped and murdered in the woods, and everyone thinks he did it, and now he's got horns coming out of his brain that makes everyone tell him their deepest, darkest secrets, and it's kind of freaking him out. This movie derailed very quickly, just shot off the rails into a dumpster fire. So let's talk about the good things about this movie. The concept is okay. The first act is really promising, which makes the second and third acts all the more disappointing. The small town setting was well executed. It reminded me a lot of Gravity Falls in the way that they kind of established this Pacific Northwest kind of town where there's lots of mystery and weird things happening in the woods. Maybe, who knows? There might not be anything weird happening in the woods. We'll get to that. The horn design is really cool. It looks very natural, very painful, very attached to his head, and it worked really well for the design. And Daniel Radcliffe, fantastic. He does a really good job of capturing this like deer in the headlights look. And he's tired, he's messy, he's corruptible. It's a really good performance from him, a very unhinged, fun, raw performance that gives him a lot to play around with. And David Morse is also really good in the film. He honestly saves the movie for me because I'm going to spoil the entire movie, but really I'm spoiling nothing because we called all of this within the first 20 minutes. So the whole mystery aspect of the film really isn't that good, you know? The narration was bloated with lines that were trying so hard to be cool and could have been cool if there was any payoff for any of it.
She was my Garden of Eden, and God knows how beautiful it was until that night. You know, no one is born evil. The devil himself was a fallen angel. But sometimes, when you go through hell, the only way out is to walk deeper into the fire. Like an angel who fell to earth, I became a devil one last time. But revenge is all-consuming. My time has come to return to you, so we can be together again.
Oh, and there's so many things that the narration alludes to that go nowhere. Why allude to fallen angels? That doesn't make sense with this metaphor, but are we going for a metaphor allegory here? It's really hard to say. We don't know. And like the film, you're a supernatural horror, you're a black comedy, you're a mystery. There's just too much going on here. Simplify. Weird movies like this can be shallow, and in fact this movie would have benefited from a much shallower take on its subject. It's too ambitious for its britches. It cannot convey and deliver what it wants to in the runtime it has with the world building it establishes. It just did not work in that regard. Part of the weird genre tone problem is its violence in the film. The violence and rape depictions in this film go to an extreme mean-spirited place. It is a sardonic and bitter film, but the violence is gratuitous and upsetting. And the fact that they tortured and fridged this delicate wilting flower of a girl character, of a romantic interest, and the fact that the whole reason she breaks up with Ig is because she's dying anyway, that kind of sucked. It doesn't often for me. So when a film so poorly botches the practically only female character in the film, so much so that I take notice, that's bad. Also, I don't know how cancer works. I'm a Pisces myself, but the fact that Marin is dying of like the same strain of cancer her mother has, it seems fake. Like it basically reduces the cancer to the anime sickness. Like, get your side ponytail, Marin. It's time to die. The whole inciting incident is that she is brutally raped and murdered. And the villain's sadism that comes out when he is recounting this, I nearly wrote it off as being unrealistic, but then I remembered people like Brock Turner exist. That being said, Brock's case and his villainy and sadism and horrific evil. That's real life. We understand that real life doesn't always make sense, and we can't always connect that like people like that exist. In fiction, we have to believe it. And so the fact that Lee has such a heel turn into this, corrupt villainy seemingly out of nowhere, it's very disjointed, and the film's payoff wasn't worth it given the direction the film was taking. Like, his end isn't worth it in the end. It doesn't work. And speaking of that payoff, the climax itself was dumb. Like, the angel wings, the literal headshot, the death by snakes, the even more snakes. The snakes were dumb. The snakes were so dumb. They were overkill. Like, he's communing with snakes so he can't be turning into Satan, but at the same time, is he turning into Satan? We don't know. The movie never makes that clear. For all we know, he turns into a dickish St. Patrick. Why did it have to be snakes? And as if the climax weren't dumb enough, the ending itself was dumb, because they bookend the movie with the same scene, and the bookended scenes bring new meaning to the first iterants of that scene, but it brings new meaning to the wrong aspects of that scene. Are Marin and Ig in paradise now? Why is their paradise the place where he died and she was raped and murdered? Lee and Meatbag also died in that spot. Why didn't they show up there? Also, Ig didn't exactly come across or admit to be the kind of character who would earn paradise. Why is he in paradise? How does this afterlife work? But the biggest question that the film doesn't bother to answer is, where did the horns come from? What is the reason? It isn't revenge, because he wanted to find out who killed Marin, not necessarily get revenge on whoever did it. I don't need to know how the power works. I didn't need to understand how it worked in Groundhog Day. I didn't need to understand how it worked in Ruby Sparks. But the degree to which Ig has powers, I need to know where they came from. Is it because he smashed the statue of the Virgin Mary and peed all over Marin's memorial site? He yelled at God. Did God give it to him? Did Marin curse him with horns? Is that why a good Christian girl has a tarot card in the box she meant for Ig to find at the end? And why did the horns show up like 2 weeks after she died, and not the night of her death? He wakes up with them after a random one-night stand with someone. The rules are non-existent or just inconsistent and vague. Normally this wouldn't be a problem, but because so much of the story revolves around the horns, hence the title, you gotta give us more to go on. This was not enough, and it's not clear what it's meant to represent, what it's meant to be. People are compelled to tell them the truth, and usually an ugly truth, but it doesn't always work because Marin has a cross necklace, and when Lee is wearing that, he can't see the horns and therefore isn't compelled to tell the truth. But at the same time, Marin's dad also isn't compelled to tell the truth. Is he also wearing a cross? Is it because he's Marin's father? We don't know. And it's not only compelled to tell the truth, they ask him permission to act on some of those truths. This woman is like, hey, should I just leave my daughter here at this doctor's office and go and screw my golf instructor? And he's like, no, why would you do that? And so she doesn't do it. Like, what's that kind of compulsion? And then that makes it like, well, it's more like Pan and madness, but that's not what the movie's about. It's more of like oriented in Christianity than like Greek mythology, like satyrs and stuff. And so it's like, where, how, why? Yeah, we don't know. We don't get to find out. And that is one of the more unsatisfying aspects of the film, is we don't understand, and the ride we're taking on that we don't understand goes to a really dark and not worth it place. It goes to a very grim, awful, upsetting place. And it's a shame because Daniel Radcliffe is doing his absolute best. He's doing the utmost. Juno Temple also doing a good job. And David Morse doing a great job. The opening act is so promising. So the fact that it can't deliver on what it promised is disappointing. And as a result, I can't really recommend the film as a whole. The first act's fine and it just flies off the rails, and it gets really hard to root for a character who is arbitrary with whom he punishes, and especially via the means he does it. It's confusing, not for the right reasons, and I'm fine when movies expect us to figure it out, but it doesn't give us enough to go on to fill in the blanks. Yeah, I think there are better executions of this concept perhaps out there. It's based on a book. I would assume that the book does a much better job of characterizing, Ig, Lee, Marin, the town, unpacking what the powers are and what they do. But I didn't read the book. I watch the movie. And if the movie can't give me what I need, that's a letdown. Which is, again, it's a shame. It's on Netflix if you want to check it out, but don't tell them I sent you if you do. This has been My Year in Movies. Thank you for watching.